What if you woke up one morning and realized you simply could not feel afraid? Not brave, not tough, not pretending, just nothing. No fear at all, no racing heart, no sweaty hands, no voice in your head saying, "Don't do it." What would your life look like? What strange things would you do? And most importantly, would that be a gift or a curse? Today you are going to live that life. You are going to step inside the shoes of Solène. Solène is a French origin name, pronounced Solène, a 26-year-old woman living in a small, foggy city near the ocean. And Solène feels no fear, none. Stay with this story, because somewhere in the middle of it, something is going to surprise you. I promise. Part 1. The morning everything feels different. It is 5:47 in the morning. Most people are still asleep. Their eyes are closed. Their bodies are warm under blankets. And their minds are full of worries. Worries means the anxious thoughts that bother you, the things you are afraid might go wrong. But Solène is already standing on the edge of a cliff, a real cliff, rocky, tall, covered in wet morning fog. She's looking down at the dark ocean water, maybe 40 meters below, and she feels nothing unusual. No shaking knees, no dry throat, no fear. She takes one slow breath, then she jumps. She falls through the cold air, arms wide open, and hits the water with a loud splash. She swims back to shore, laughing. This is Tuesday. This is just her morning. Now you might be thinking, is Solène crazy? Is she trying to hurt herself? No, she is not. Solène is simply someone whose brain, the biological part that produces fear, does not send those warning signals. Scientists call this a condition related to a tiny part of the brain called the amygdala. Amygdala, pronounced amygdala, which is the part responsible for detecting danger and producing the feeling of fear. In Solène's brain, this part works very quietly, almost silently. She has had this her whole life, and it has shaped means influenced and formed, every single decision she has ever made. She walks home from the cliff, soaking wet, bare feet on cold stone. Her neighbor, an old man named Bartolomeu, a Portuguese name, sees her and shakes his head slowly. "Solène," he says, "one day that ocean will swallow you." She smiles at him. "Good morning, Bartolomeu." He mutters something under his breath and goes back inside. This is also a normal Tuesday. Part 2. The choices only you would make. At 8:30 in the morning, Solène arrives at her job. She works as an urban explorer. Urban means related to a city, and an explorer is someone who goes to unknown or forgotten places to discover what is there. So an urban explorer is someone who enters old, abandoned. Abandoned means left behind and no longer used. Buildings, tunnels, and forgotten spaces in cities. Most urban explorers feel a mix of excitement and fear. That feeling together is part of why they love it. But Solène, she only feels the excitement. Pure, clean, uninterrupted. Today, her job takes her to an old hospital on the edge of the city. A building that has been empty for 30 years. The windows are broken. The walls are covered in dark green moss. Moss is a soft, flat plant that grows on wet surfaces like walls and rocks. The floors creak loudly with every step. Her colleague means a person you work with, is a man named Drago, short for Diego, but everyone calls him Drago. Drago stops at the entrance of the building. He looks up, he looks down, he pulls his jacket tighter. "I don't like this place," Drago says quietly. "Why not?" Solène asks, already stepping inside. "It feels wrong," he says. "Don't you feel that?" Solène turns and looks at him with genuine curiosity. Genuine means real, honest, not fake. Feel what exactly? Drago cannot explain it. That heavy, invisible feeling, that sense that something bad might happen. That's fear, and he has it. She doesn't. She goes in. He follows slowly, holding his flashlight with both hands. Inside, the hospital is beautiful in a broken way. Pale light comes through cracked windows. Old beds are still in the rooms, covered in dust. A wheelchair sits alone in a long corridor. Corridor means a long hallway or passage inside a building. Faded curtains move slowly, even though there is no wind. Drago keeps looking over his shoulder. Solène keeps moving forward, photographing everything. Solène, Drago whispers, "Did you hear that?" A sound, far away, like something moving. Drago freezes. Solène walks toward the sound. She turns a corner and finds a cat, a thin orange cat sitting on a windowsill, watching them. "Mystery solved," she says. Drago lets out a long breath. "I think I need a vacation." This is the first thing you notice about living without fear. You move forward when everyone else moves back. Not because you are smarter, not because you are stronger, simply because the invisible wall, the one made of fear, does not exist for you. And this changes everything. Part 3. The social life of the fearless. It is now 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Solène is at a small cafe near the harbor. Harbor means a sheltered area of water near land where boats stay. She is eating a sandwich and reading a book. At the table next to her, a man is sitting alone. He looks nervous, fidgeting. Fidgeting means moving small body parts repeatedly because of anxiety or nervousness, like tapping your fingers or moving your leg up and down. He is clearly waiting for someone. Solène watches him for a moment. Then she does something most people would never do. She leans over and says, "You look like you are waiting for someone important. First date?" The man looks up, surprised. His name is Onyeka. Onyeka, a Nigerian name meaning "who is greater than God." And yes, he is waiting for a first date. "How did you know?" he asks. "Your knee has been moving for 10 minutes, she says, "and you have checked your phone 6 times in 2 minutes. He laughs, a surprised, relieved laugh. "Is it that obvious?" "A little," she says warmly. "She will like you. Stop checking your phone." Onyeka smiles. His leg stops moving. This is the second thing about living without fear. Social fear. The fear of saying the wrong thing, the fear of being judged, the fear of rejection. Rejection means when someone does not accept you or says no, is completely gone. Solène talks to strangers easily. She says honest things. She asks bold questions, not to be rude, but because the filter, that small voice saying, "Don't say that, what will they think?" does not exist for her. Sometimes people love this about her. She feels refreshing. Refreshing means pleasantly new and different, like a cool breeze on a hot day. Sometimes people find it unsettling. Unsettling means slightly uncomfortable or disturbing, making you feel uneasy. But she is always, always real. Later that afternoon, Solène is walking past a music school. Through the window, she sees a class happening, a teacher at a piano, students watching. She has never played piano in her life. She walks in. "Excuse me," she says to the teacher. "Can I try?" The teacher, a tall woman named Marisol, blinks. "This is a private class." "I know, I just want to try one thing. 30 seconds. Marisol looks at her class, they look back. Someone shrugs, Marisol steps aside. Solène sits down at the piano. She places her fingers. She tries to play something she heard once on the radio, badly, slowly, with wrong notes. The class watches. It sounds terrible. Solène laughs at herself. "Yeah, that's what I thought," she says and stands up. The class laughs too, the good kind of laughter, the kind that brings people together. "Come back on Saturday," Marisol says. "I'll teach you properly." And so begins Solène's piano lessons. This is the third thing about living without fear. You try things you have no business trying. No business trying. Is an English idiom. Idiom means a phrase where the words together mean something different from the individual words. No business doing something means you have no reason or qualification to do it. And sometimes, you accidentally find a new path. Chapter 4. The Dark Side of No Fear. Now, we need to talk about something important, because this story would not be honest if it only showed the exciting parts. Living without fear sounds like a superpower, and in many ways it is, but it also has a shadow side. A shadow side means the negative or hidden part of something that seems positive. It is evening now, around 7 p.m. Solène is at a rooftop party, a party on top of a tall building. The city lights glitter. Glitter means shine with many small flashes of light like stars, all around. Music is playing. People are talking and laughing. Near the edge of the rooftop, there is a low railing. Railing means a fence-like bar used to stop people from falling. It is not very tall. Solène is standing next to it, casually leaning over to look at the street far below. Her friend, a woman named Thessaly, Tsale, a name inspired by a region in Greece, grabs her arm. "Solène, step back. You're going to fall. Solène looks at her calmly. I won't fall. I know exactly where my body is. That's not the point. You're scaring me. And this is where something important becomes clear. Solène does not feel fear. But the people around her feel fear for her, and that is exhausting. Exhausting means extremely tiring, both physically and emotionally, for them. It creates a kind of invisible distance between Solène and the people who love her. Because fear is not just a protection mechanism. It is also a form of communication. When you look scared, others understand you. When you act scared at the right moments, it tells people, I understand this is serious. Without that signal, Solène sometimes seems distant, unreachable, like she lives behind glass. Thessaly has cried about it before. Sometimes I don't know how to connect with you, she told Solène once. You never seem worried about anything. Solène had listened carefully. She had understood with her mind, but she could not feel it in her body. That gap, that space between understanding something and feeling it, is the real loneliness of a fearless life. There is also the question of danger. Solène has been in real danger many times. Once she walked through a neighborhood at 2 a.m. that was genuinely unsafe. Most people would feel the warning signals, the raised hair on the neck, the faster heartbeat, the strong instinct. Instinct means a natural automatic feeling or behavior that does not require thinking, telling them to leave. Solène felt none of that. She walked slowly. She looked at the stars. She got home fine that night. But she also got robbed once, years ago, and she did not run fast enough. Not because she was slow, but because her brain never screamed run. Fear keeps us alive. This is not a small thing. Part 5. The strange things that become ordinary. Over the following weeks, you live more of Solène's life. You watch her do things that make others gasp. Gasp means to make a sudden sharp sound by breathing in quickly, usually from shock or surprise. She volunteers. Volunteers means chooses to do something without being paid or forced. To test a new parachute design with an aerospace. Aerospace means related to aircraft and space travel. Research team. They needed a human tester. No one else raised their hand. She raised hers. She free dives. Free diving means swimming deep underwater with no oxygen tank, using only the breath you held at the surface, to depths that would make experienced divers nervous. She gives a speech in front of 500 people on a topic she was only given 1 hour to prepare for. Public speaking is the #1 fear for most humans. For Solène, it is just talking, just louder, to more people. She moves to a new country alone, with only one contact and one suitcase, speaking the local language at only basic level. Most people plan for months before a move like that. Solène books the flight on a Wednesday and leaves on Friday. She starts a business. It fails. She starts another one. Not because she is reckless. Reckless means doing dangerous things without thinking about the consequences, but because the fear of failure, which stops so many people from trying, simply does not exist in her. And then there is the strangest thing of all. One afternoon, Solène is sitting in her apartment. She has come back from a week of photographing ice caves in Iceland. Iceland is a Nordic island country in the North Atlantic Ocean, known for its dramatic landscapes. She is looking through her photographs, and she starts to cry. Not from sadness, not from fear, but from something else entirely. Awe. Awe is a feeling of great wonder and respect, the feeling you get when you see something so large and beautiful that it makes you feel small and amazed at the same time. The ice was blue, impossibly blue, lit from inside like a lantern, and she had walked through it alone, in silence, with no one else. And somewhere in that silence, she had felt something she could not name, something that was not fear, but was equally powerful, equally moving. She calls Thessaly. I cried today, she tells her. Thessaly is quiet for a moment. From what? From something beautiful. From ice. Another pause. Solène, Thessaly says softly, that's the most normal thing you've ever said to me. Part 6. What the fearless person teaches the world. Here is what living in Solène's life has taught us. And these are not just story lessons. These are real things, real ideas, real English vocabulary that you can use in your own life. Lesson 1. Fear is a language. When you feel fear, your body is speaking to you. It is using a biological language. Biological means relating to living things and the processes of life, to say, Pay attention. Something important is happening. Learning to listen to that language is a skill. Not all fear is useful. Some fear is old, outdated, unnecessary. The fear of embarrassment, the fear of looking foolish, the fear of trying something new. But some fear is a real signal, the body saying, this is genuinely dangerous. The wise person, the truly courageous. Courageous means having the quality of being brave, of doing difficult things despite fear. Person learns the difference. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is feeling fear and choosing to act anyway, with wisdom. Lesson 2. Strange things build extraordinary lives. Every strange thing Solène did led somewhere. The piano she played badly led to lessons. The lessons led to a friendship with Marisol. The friendship led to Solène performing. Performing means presenting a skill or art to an audience at a small local concert, something she never would have planned, something that filled her with that unnamed feeling, the cousin of awe that she is slowly learning to recognize. Your strange ideas are not mistakes. They are doors. Most people stand in front of those doors and walk away because of fear. The fearless person simply turns the handle. What door have you been standing in front of? What strange thing have you been wanting to try but haven't? Lesson 3. The people around you matter deeply. Even Solène, with no fear in her heart, needed Thessaly, needed Drago, needed Bartolomeo's grumpy morning greetings. We are not built to be alone. Connection means a real emotional bond with another person is not just nice to have. It is a fundamental. Fundamental means basic and essential, part of the very foundation of something, human need. And connections require vulnerability. Vulnerability means the state of being open to being hurt, of letting people see you fully, including your fears, your weaknesses, your soft parts. For Solène, vulnerability looked different. She could not offer fear, but she could offer honesty, presence. The same fearlessness that made her jump off cliffs made her say, I see you, to strangers in cafes. Part 7. The last strange thing. It is a year later. Solène is sitting on the same cliff she jumped from on that first Tuesday morning. She is not alone this time. Beside her is a young girl, maybe 10 years old, named Lyra, a neighbor's daughter who has been following Solène around the neighborhood like a small, curious shadow for months. Lyra is looking at the water below. Have you ever been scared? Lyra asks. Solène thinks about this carefully. She always gives real answers. Not in the way most people mean, she says, but I have felt something like it once. Lyra looks at her. When? When I was in a hospital, Solène says. Not abandoned. A real one. A doctor told me something unexpected about my brain, and for the first time, I did not know what came next. I could not explore it or photograph it or swim through it. What did you do? I sat very still, and I waited, and I breathed. Lyra thinks about this. That sounds like being scared. Maybe, Solène says, or maybe it was just being human. Lyra looks at the water. I want to jump, she says, but I'm scared. That's normal, Solène says immediately. You're not scared. I know, but you are, and that's okay. Fear is telling you something. What is it telling you? Lyra thinks. That I might get hurt. And what does your body tell you about how likely that is? Lyra looks at the water. She measures the distance with her eyes. She thinks about the depth. I think it's probably okay if I jump right here. Yes, Solène says, right here is safe. I have jumped here 100 times. A long pause. Lyra jumps. She screams the whole way down, a wild, joyful, terrified scream, and hits the water. She comes up laughing. Solène watches from above, smiling, and in that moment, watching someone small and brave fight their way through their own fear and come out laughing on the other side, Solène feels something, not fear, something warmer. The closest word might be pride, or wonder, or maybe, for the first time in her life, something very close to joy that comes from another person's courage rather than her own. She files it away in her memory, the way she files photographs. A new discovery, another room in the old hospital of herself, finally opened. So, you have lived 1 year of Solène's life. You have jumped off cliffs, walked through abandoned hospitals, talked to strangers, tried instruments you cannot play, moved to new countries, and watched a child scream through her first jump into the sea. You have learned that fearlessness is not the same as invincibility. Invincibility means the state of being impossible to defeat or harm. You have learned that fear has a language, and that language is worth studying. You have learned that strange things, the ones most people avoid because of fear, are often the things that lead somewhere extraordinary. And you have learned some new English words today. Amygdala, the part of the brain that produces fear. Instinct, a natural automatic response. Vulnerability, being open to being hurt or seen fully. Awe, the feeling of being amazed by something vast and beautiful. Reckless, acting without thinking about consequences. Courageous, being brave despite feeling fear. Fundamental, basic and essential. Exhausting, extremely tiring. Refreshing, pleasantly new and different. Unsettling, making you feel uneasy. Now, one question before you go. What is one strange thing that you have wanted to do, but fear has stopped you from doing? Write it in the comments. Just one thing. And remember, you do not need to be like Solène. You do not need to feel no fear. You just need to turn the handle, even with shaking hands, especially with shaking hands. If this story helped your English today, subscribe for a new story every week, and share this video with one friend who needs a little push.